The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with concern as Ambassador Torres entered with her security detail. The Chularian representative immediately raised an objection. "Ambassador, your guards carry no weapons," he observed, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. "This violates protocol. Every delegation brings armed security." Torres smiled politely. "Our guards don't need weapons, Counselor." Around the chamber, armed guards from a dozen species stood at attention: plasma rifles, pulse cannons, molecular disruptors. The human guards wore only simple uniforms, their hands empty, their expressions calm. The Chularian's primary eye narrowed. "You mock our security concerns?" "Not at all," Torres replied. "We simply have a different philosophy." The debate might have continued, but the Kitharon ambassador chose that moment to make his move. His species had been waiting decades for this opportunity, a chance to decapitate the Council's leadership in one strike and seize control. His guards moved with practiced precision, weapons raised, targeting every ambassador simultaneously. The other security forces barely had time to react. The human guards moved faster. What happened next was recorded by every security camera and would be analyzed by military academies for generations. The 4 human guards didn't draw weapons because they didn't need to. They were the weapons. The nearest Kitharon guard, a warrior who had trained for 30 years, found himself disarmed, disabled, and unconscious in 1.3 seconds. The human hadn't even seemed to try. Just a blur of motion, and the guard was on the floor, his weapon in pieces. Another human guard crossed 15 meters in the time it took a Kitharon to aim his rifle. The weapon fired, but the human wasn't there anymore. She was behind the shooter, her hand striking pressure points that the Kitharons didn't even know they had. He collapsed like his strings had been cut. The Chularian counselor watched in stunned silence as 4 human guards systematically dismantled 12 heavily armed Kitharon warriors. No weapons. No lethal force. Just devastating efficiency. In 45 seconds, it was over. Every attacker was alive but unconscious. Every ambassador was safe. The human guards stood at their positions again, barely breathing hard, hands still empty. What are they?" the Chularian whispered. Torres surveyed the scene calmly. "Our guards don't carry weapons, Counselor, because they've spent their entire lives learning to use everything as a weapon. Their bodies. The environment. Your own weapons turned against you." She gestured to her lead guard. "Sergeant Chen has studied 17 martial disciplines. She can kill in 200 different ways with her bare hands. She chooses not to." Chen nodded politely at the council, her expression unchanged. "But why no weapons?" asked the Valerian ambassador, his voice shaking. "Surely weapons would make them more effective?" "No," Torres said simply. "Weapons are tools. They can be taken, disabled, or fail. A human who has mastered themselves never fails." She looked at each counselor in turn. "We learned this lesson millennia ago. The most dangerous human isn't the one with the biggest gun. It's the one who doesn't need a gun at all." Security footage was reviewed. Combat analysts from every species studied the engagement. The conclusion was unanimous and terrifying: the human guards had been holding back significantly. They could have killed every attacker in half the time but chose to incapacitate instead. The council passed a new resolution that day. Human diplomatic guards were exempt from the weapons requirement. Not because they were unarmed, but because the council finally understood the truth. The humans weren't unarmed. They were restrained. And that was far more frightening than any weapon. The Kitharon delegation was expelled, their attempted coup having failed spectacularly. As they were escorted out, one of the recovering warriors asked Sergeant Chen a question that haunted him for the rest of his life. "How did you move so fast? How did you know exactly where to strike?" Chen's answer was simple: "We don't train to fight aliens. We train to fight humans." Compared to that, everything else is easy. The galaxy learned a new rule that day: never assume the unarmed human is the harmless one. Sometimes, they're just being polite.